Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Charlotte Canion on today's show.
I'm your host, award-winning author, speaker, and actress, Charlotte Canion. And today our guest is DC Gomez. She's an author of the Intern Diary series and has written many other books. Welcome to the show, DC.
Hello, Madam. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Before we dive into your books, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into writing, or have you been writing since you were a child?
I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, grew up in DR, moved to the States when I was about 10 and a half, and I actually have a background in filmmaking. So my background in training was at NYU. So I've been doing storytelling all my life. That's kind of how that part comes into play. Usually when people ask, how did you start writing? It was a really natural progression to pick up novel writing. The difference is I hit a place in my life where I was miserable. I literally hit that wall where I was stuck. I hated what I was doing. I was completely in this place in my life that I just felt out of sorts. And I had to come back home. That's kind of what I tell everybody. So I started writing. Like 4 years ago, I started publishing and kind of found my way back to storytelling, found my way back to creating these stories that just makes your heart and soul feel alive. That's kind of how I come back to it.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit. You said you didn't tell us a little bit about your family. I'd like to know, if is your family into writing and film, or did you just find that yourself? And, do you have a husband? Do you have children? They like to know a little bit of your background.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. You're definitely looking a little bit more. So I usually tell people I have a film degree that comes with the whole family because I just kind of drag everybody into this. My family's not into film. My brothers are musicians, so they went to school for music. So we do have very artsy kind of family, but in terms of the writing, the production, the creation, that's kind of very me per se. After graduation from college, I actually joined the military. I literally went to the Army. I know. So, and I joined in 2001. So when I was in basic training, it was when the Twin Towers fell. So kind of give you a perspective in that. So my life changed. I think that's kind of the big piece of my portion of my life, and that influence that a lot of the military has a lot of my stories. There is a lot of that patriotic, as well as the kind of understanding and finding your way back home. Because that's really where I was in my 20s. I was in the military. I transitioned from the military to become a federal employee. I thought I had to do the respectable thing. I'm the oldest of three. My parents are both immigrants. They have worked their whole entire lives. And I had this part that I just wanted to make them proud. I wanted to make my parents proud by doing the respectable thing. I wanted to, have the career that my parents thought I should. And it's the part where you realize sometimes making your parents happy all the time is not going to make you happy. So I can admit it, as an adult, it took me a while to realize that I am actually divorced. I got married right after I got out of the military. I thought I was going to have the wife, married life with the kids, the wife picket fence, the whole 9 yards, and life just changes. It just didn't work out. So I usually joke because I have a really fun lifestyle in Texas now, because I'm in Texas, and I live with this very roommate who officially has other ideas for my life than what I have for myself. So having a cat has changed the way I see pets, because I grew up in a household that didn't have any pets. So I ended up having a crazy cat, and allowed a lot of the influence people. Like, I'm the crazy cat lady. I'm a little undercover cat lady. So that has added to my writing and to kind of the way I see the world.
Yeah. Well, did the cat kind of influence your talking cat story? I know it's called The Origins of is it Constantine or Constantine?
It's Constantine. So Constantine is one of the characters in the Intern Diary series. So The Origins of Constantine is an origin story for this side character. And I asked one of my beta readers, because I wanted to have a novella that I could give away. And we have the discussions like, what should we do this novella about? I was like, let's talk about Constantine. I'm like, you want me to write a novel about a talking cat? He's like, yes. I was like, really? This is what we're going to do? And that was that moment. So Constantine is inspired, yes, by my crazy little cat, but also by my mother. Like the two beings in my life that rule my world and boss me around all the time, mother and cat. That's kind of how Constantine came about, but is this character that truly has taken a personality of his own. I have no idea, didn't I expect this insane cat to truly be as popular as he is. I tell everyone Constantine has fans. I have readers, but Constantine has fans that send him mail that said to Constantine and his humor. I'm like, oh, I have been downgraded to human, but Constantine is officially that cat that does what he wants, says what he wants, typical cat, and just rules everybody in his life.
So you said that you have two people that rule you. That's the cat and your mother. Let me just ask you, did somehow some of your mother's characteristics show up in Constantine in your book?
Absolutely. Every single one of them. And I think as daughters, we kind of joke because we don't think we become like our mothers. I am my mother's child. There's nothing I can say about it. I'm extremely proud the older I get. And if I could have her tenacity and determination, life would be amazing because she is such a power force to reckon with. But yes, definitely Constantine has my mom's personality of he's going to dominate and rule the world. And the two of them, just be careful because they'll take over.
Now, is there going to be a sequel to that book? Because I'm a cat person, so I can definitely relate. You know.
Constantine has enough appearance in this series. I don't think he needs any more love than what he has. He's already in too much as it is. I was like, Constantine just needs some downtime on his own. He should be okay.
Okay. Well, we've got a few minutes here before we have to go to our first break. So, golly, you've written so many books. What was the first in your series? What was the first book?
The very first one is called Death's Intern. So it is literally an urban fantasy adventure and is coming out. It's very much, if you never knew fantasy. So it's from the eyes of Isis Black, who is an army vet. So I took a lot of the things that I knew. She moved down to Texarkana. Pretty much she accidentally, let's just say it that way, accidentally kills Death's old intern. Now she has the job and she has to make a choice in her life. What is she going to do? Does she take this job? Is she going to work with Death, this crazy talking cat, this boy genius, or she's going to walk away? And she has 3 days to do it. This is where this adventure came about and where this entire universe, which is the Intern Diaries, created, is where Constantine came to life. And all my entire family of friends are just officially a world of their own.
One other question right before we take a break. We've got a couple of minutes here. And I've talked to other authors, and you've already said that your mother is kind of incorporated and become a little bit of the character of your cat. Are there other friends that you've incorporated into your book, or some of their characteristics that you liked or didn't like that you thought would make interesting characters?
You'd be surprised how much you pull from different people and how much these people come into your mind. I have several characters that have been asked by friends to be like, hey, can I be in a book? So if I have permission, I tend to use their names here and there. If not, I pull from their personalities, the things I really do enjoy. Sometimes the things, as you said, make you mad and angry. You kind of pull into them because the goal is always to create characters you can relate. And the closer they are to real people, the easier it is for people to make that connection and to be able to see themselves. One of my favorite characters is Angela, which happens to be in the Cat Lady Special series. And she's a lot more of me than any other character because she's been through a lot of these raw portions of it. So it was my time during my divorce that got Angela out. So I pull from different things to make that connection for people to see themselves in these characters and say, yes, I can see myself here.
Yeah, so you kind of follow the same flow that most authors do. Well, DC, we're going to take a break here and let our sponsors share their message.
Hello, I am the author Denise Bryson. My first book is The Things That Cross My Mind, Inspirational Poetry with Life Lessons. And then my audiobook is Love's Reality. And it is also inspirational poetry with a jazzy flair. And then my new book is The Sex, the Lies, and the Soul Ties. They're really short stories written from a poetic expression. And then I have my first children book series, the Blinky series, which the first book is called Meet the Coins, and it is both in English and Spanish. And then the new book, From Coins to Bills. I am the author, Denise Bryson.
Marianne Fairmouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award-winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at fairmouth.com.
To embrace your children's imagination, check out Diane Floyd Bame's books for kids. There's The Moonling Adventures, all about the animals in the Serengeti. And then there's Harry the Camel, learning to love yourself just the way you are. Then The Little Girl in the Moon. There's one about friendship, another one about the big ideas, which is an inspirational story. And then Tour Tycho Town, right there in Tycho Crater on the moon. All of Diane Floyd Bame's books are available at B4R Store.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Charlotte Canion on today's show.
This is Charlotte Canion, and we've been speaking with DC Gomez. Now, DC is a fascinating lady. She's written about cats, and she's written about famine. She's been in the military, all kinds of things. I'm sure it's structured how her books flow. DC, now let's get into, your series, and you told us a little bit about the first book. Tell us a little more, and what are you working on now? What's your latest book? Give us a little insight.
I am probably the author that refuses to pick a genre. I know is probably crazy and drives a lot of my readers insane. So I do a little bit of everything. Like you said, I do urban fantasy, which is probably my favorite. I have done women's lit, I've done devotionals, I've done children's books, including, young adults. So I love the diversity that comes with writing, and I love exploring new universe. My intern diary is probably my baby because it's probably my first series, and it's also completed. So when we're talking about that series, it's all based on the four horsemen of the apocalypse. I really wanted something that I have a fascination. I can just put it out there. So I started writing this series, is literally turning 4 here in November. So you're looking at a journey where I introduce you to the horsemen, and then I want to introduce to people. So if you knew nothing about fantasy, which is what urban fantasy is fantasy taking place in the modern world. So it's current day activity. So I'm mixing your everyday life. So I'll take you to a tour of Texas, as I tell everybody. And I'm introducing in the first book, you're going to have some witches. In book 2, I'm definitely going to introduce you to Pestilence, who is our second horseman, and she is deliciously evil. And people are allowed to hate her because she is that character. But you have some zombies running in Texarkana. So book 3 has war. You get some elves, you get some vampires, you get some demons running around here. So you add a little bit of star-crossed lover in that crazy book. Famine is book 4. And we have some shapeshifters. So the goal of this series was introduce you little by little, just kind of get you up to speed of all the madness that can happen behind the scenes. And then book 5, which is Judgment Day, is what happens that could cause the apocalypse because you made the horsemen mad. So the entire series takes place, and I really, for me, I wrote this series because I really wanted to write Judgment Day. That was kind of the baby. It's like, we're going to have this end of world series, and it is fast paced. It's going to take you really quickly through a whole bunch of madness. And somebody described this series probably really fun. While most people think horror, I am a really dark humor kind of girl. So it is zany, quirky characters. As long as you enjoy quirky characters that have insane plots and crazy madness, then you're going to love the series. And this series in between has 3 novellas as well. So you have The Origins of Constantine, you have From Eugene with Love, which is one of the interns for Pestilence, and then you have Rise of the Reaper. So you don't have to read the novellas to actually get familiar with the series. But this is what happens when Isis, who's my main character, is not around. So you get to find out, as the reader, get a little insight behind the scenes on the series, kind of a little peek behind what the boys do when she's not in town. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I noticed, I was looking at one of the covers of your book, and it was one of your bestsellers. it says from the cat lady to the arms of to an arms dealer. Now, is that part of the apocalypse as well?
This one is not fantasy at all. So this is straight literature. I had a funny story to give you this one. I went to a romance convention. And at the time, all I had was literally children's book and urban fantasy. So I'm probably one of the few authors that doesn't have a romance book. I was driving from Lake Charles back to Texas about 5 hours. And I'm like, I need to have a romance book. I should have a romance book. This is something I should put on my list of things to do. So the idea for the cat lady came about and everybody points out, I was like, this is not romance. I was like, this love. Is like, yeah, you did not get the romance piece in here. So you have Angela depressed, she hit the bottom, as you can imagine. And you start in a really dark place in her life. You start in her living room, her considering that she's going to kill herself. What do you do when you hit rock? Yeah. What do you do when you have nothing to lose? Beautiful Southern belle. She committed her life to everything. Her husband, she wanted to take care of her, couldn't have a family. She wanted to do all these things. And she found herself in her mid-40s with nothing. She's going to lose her house. The husband left her for a very young woman. What are you going to do? And a lot of the book starts with there's a knock at the door and the opportunity knocks. And she's like, what do I have to do? And one of her quotes is, she goes, I can't grow weed, definitely cannot make meth, but I can sell some guns. Let's do this. So that's kind of the adventure. It is a lot more older. While my intern diaries can be very YA oriented, Angela's not. This is not that book. It is very much, you have to be in a specific place in your life to understand it. Some people have said, like, I don't understand why she would marry this guy and commit. I was like, you haven't been in that place in your life. That's not going to make sense to you. You're not there yet. And that's okay. So the Cat Lady special, it's going to be a trilogy. My readers like, when is book coming before we have to hurt you? I'm like, it's coming, I promise. But it is the adventures of Angela and absolutely what I call the silver hair gang, which is her mother, her mom's friends, all causing troubles, trying to sell some guns and put people in the right place. So it's kind of fun.
And a female gun runner. I mean, that's really crazy.
Absolutely. In the middle of Texas, for all that matter.
Well, now anywhere, I mean, that's where they should be. We have more guns probably in Texas than any other state. I mean, you're not going to take our guns away. For sure. You mentioned that you had written, or maybe you didn't mention, but you've written a children's book. And I myself has just written a children's book. So I know what you're talking about, of jumping genres. But it's called Charlie, What's Your Talent? Is it got a moralistic story?
I have Charlie is part of Charlie's Fable. So there's 2 books in that series. We're working on the 3rd one for that one. And Charlie, What's Your Talent? It is very much dedicated to my nephews. I am truly blessed, and I have 2 gorgeous little nephews in my life. You asked about my family. When Adam, who's the oldest, now 4, was born, my goal was really simple. I wanted this child not to be 35 and asking himself what he was good at. I was like, we need to fix this right now. I need you to start thinking how amazing you are now, to look at his everyday, to look at who he was as a child and truly figure it out his talents and how natural they are. So it is very much focused on Charlie comes home from school and he's crying and he goes to his grandmother and she goes, I have no talent. And she's like, oh my God, what happened? So they had a talent show at the school and poor Charlie literally couldn't sing, couldn't dance, he couldn't do anything. So her grandmother gives him an exercise for the weekend and tells him, I need you to go and write down everything you'd like to do. So Charlie spends the weekend playing and swimming and planting and cooking and figuring it out what he enjoys. So at the end of the weekend, they go through that exercise together. So very much, let's make sure Adam and now Dominic understand that you are absolutely beautifully talented right now.
Well, everyone has their talents, most definitely. Now, and I know the moral of that is find out who you are, and look inside yourself. Now, did you have a grandma like that?
I actually was very blessed to have parents that way. I grew up in a household where there was books everywhere. So growing up, being able to try anything was something my parents were very adamant. My mom always said, I never want you to say I didn't do something because I stopped you. So I grew up in a household that when I was growing up, I took photography. So I have a dark room. I got to develop pictures. I got to write stories. I got to be in the marching band. I took German. My dad was like, "You're not learning English fast enough. You're forgetting Spanish. Why are you taking German?" And I'm like, "Why not?" So it was that time. Why not? But I had parents that were very much believer that you can do and be anything. So I wanted to, anything you could, anything you can imagine. So when I joined the military, they were not that surprised. They were like, "You would be that kid that joins the military. Why not? Let's do that."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, DC, we're going to take another break here. Go to our sponsors.
Publishing marketing package for authors. $1,500 value, save 40% now. Includes a 6-piece marketing kit of 250 bookmarks, 250 business cards, 250 postcards, 1 table banner, 1 table runner, and 50 download cards, plus book cover design, ebook creation, PDF setups, upload to Ingram Spark, scroll placement, video commercial, and interview on IBS, plus much more. Email bourgeoismedia@look.com for details or bourgeoismedia.com.
Hi, I'm Mel Greenberg, author of Running with Our Eyes Closed, book 1 in the Empty Nested series. To the world, Samantha has the perfect life. 3 wonderful children, a loving husband, so she thought, and a life split between Dallas and Italy. When her youngest leaves for college, it all comes crashing down, forcing Samantha to re-examine everything. Over 7 days in one of the most romantic countries in the world, Samantha faces the past she thought she'd overcome and begins to redefine her role as a woman, a wife, and a mother.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? Well, during COVID, almost all of us have been doing just that. I'm Charlotte Canion, award-winning author, actress, and speaker. And my book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, shows you how you can revive, thrive, and survive with 4 golden rules. You have to love one another. You have to respect one another. You have to have patience with one another. And most of all, you've got to forgive one another. I'm Charlotte Canion, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Charlotte Canion on today's show.
This is Charlotte Canion. Oh my gosh, this has been the most wonderful interview with DC Gomez. She's an author of the, I'm just went brain dead. She's author of the Intern Diary series. She's written children books, Charlie, What's Your Talent? She's written about a talking cat. And we're not being funny about this. This is an important talking cat. And she's also written devotional books. So she's very, very well versed in everything that she does. And she's not one to stay within one genre. I like to see that because I'm actually of that same here. I've written 4 different type of genres, and I'm ready to do something different. So what I'd like you to do is share with our listeners, how they can reach you if they want you to come speak or do a book signing, or where they can find your books, your website, and if you're doing any personal appearances, you might, tell them where you're going to be, and they might come out and see you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Charlotte. One of the things that I'm truly passionate about, because I have been in that place in my life where I've been stuck, is I'm also a mindset coach. I am a podcaster. So if people want to hear a podcast, you can listen to Inside the Minds of Authors and literally listen to other authors in their journey. One of the things I realized that I'm getting ready to launch here shortly is my teaching program. It is literally one-on-one coaching to get people who are creative, who are currently stuck in their lives, who understand they want something more, to actually transition to a much more fulfilling lifestyle. And anybody who's interested in learning more, you can find me on my website. It is easy. It is dcgomez-author.com. There's a contact. Send me an email. You have questions about the podcast. You have questions about speaking engagements. I love connecting with readers. I love connecting with people. I love going to schools. It's one of those fun things that we can always do and connect. So anybody can reach me that way. I'm active on social media. So if you're on Facebook, you can check me out at dcgomez.author. I'm also on Instagram. I've gone from a very introvert kind of person that just wanted to sit at home and type to, I think every author is like, we love being home and hanging out, to being able to connect across the world with people. So those are some of the things that I'm doing. I'm back to it, getting ready to, as I call it, doing my comeback in urban fantasy. So I'm drafting books again, but definitely getting ready to connect with readers, with audiences, and with creative individuals at a whole different level, because I know what it feels like to be stuck, and I know what it feels like to want to do something more with your lives.
Well, I've got a special question for you. You said your
Yes.
background was film. Have you ever thought of writing a screenplay and, having one of your books, made into a film?
Honestly, I think every writer has that dream. We all have that vision of our stories being in the next Netflix, Amazon series. I'm not going to lie, I'm right there with them. I would love to see whether it's Angela, my cat lady, or my intern diaries and Amazon. Absolutely. In terms of me writing it, if anybody's interested, could I do it? Yes, it's not that difficult for me to transition my books, primarily because I write almost like a film script. When you see it, when you read it, you do get that visual concept that you would in a film, just because that's my background. So it's easy to translate. At this point in time, I just want to write. That's the kind of fun part about being an author, is that you can create the universe to so much more degree than you could in a script. So I'm enjoying the writing. I'm enjoying that journey that comes with creating these worlds all on my own.
Well, DC, it has been a pleasure. I want you to give them your website one more time.
Absolutely. And it's truly been such an honor to be here with you and to connect with the audience. It is www.dcgomez-author.com.
Well, this is Charlotte Canion, and we want to thank DC for being on the show. And I want you to remember one thing. A rose is like a book. You can't know its beauty until you look at it. But a book is like a rose. You won't know its full beauty until it's opened. This is Charlotte Canion saying bye for now.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, produced by Biala Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2021. Voiceover by Biala Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please email us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please complete the form found on our website at indiebeacon.com. You may also watch previous year's shows on the website. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Indie Beacon